Okay, awesome. Well, thanks to those of you that registered and showed up for the AI Product Salon this month. I'm super excited. We have Dror going to show us like what it's actually like to productively use OpenClaw and a bunch of agents to run his life. So I'm not going to do a crappy introduction of Dror. I'll let him introduce himself and then jump in. But Dror, my friend, the floor is yours, and I think we're all super excited to see what you're going to share.
Thank you, Danny. Hey, everyone. My name is Dror. Nice to meet you. Some background about me. I've been in the product and technology space for about 20 years. I live in the Bay Area in California, which is very odd getting rain in the last 2 days. So this is definitely not the typical rain in the Bay Area for those who know Bay Area weather very well. But other than that, love to spend the next hour or so with you to kind of talk about OpenClaw and how I actually use OpenClaw. I do want to say I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just going to show you how I'm actually using OpenClaw. There's definitely a lot that I don't know yet, but I will show you how I'm using it, and hopefully it's going to inspire you or giving you some ideas about how to actually use it for yourself. Before I'm getting started, it's great to see the faces here, so that's awesome. Quick question: how many of you know what is OpenClaw? How many of you actually use OpenClaw? All right. So I'm going to start assuming that you don't use OpenClaw at all, and I will build on top of that. If you feel like it's too fast, tell me. I want that to be a dynamic conversation, so this is not like a one-way discussion. So feel free to ask me questions and so on. Danny, I know we have 1 hour, but I do want to say I'm happy to stay after that. If people want to stick around, just let me know. But I will just assume that we know nothing and we can get started from the beginning and go after that. So, okay. So, I mean, what is OpenClaw? We probably heard about the name OpenClaw somewhere at some point. There was a lot of different other, um, I would say, systems that build on top of OpenClaw, but I'm using the OpenClaw system. It's pretty much a local first AI operating layer for life and work. And I think the key thing is that it pretty much connect chat, tools, files, browsers, agents, memory, and jobs and cron jobs together into one system. And the thing is that it's running locally on your computer. So you can still do that on the cloud if you want, but it's something that you run on your own machine. And if you ask about what's the difference between that and Claude Code or ChatGPT, the biggest thing is again, it's running inside your environment. It's something that is running on your local machine, which basically means that it can access all your files and other tools that you can basically provide access. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So to get started, I'm just going to put a link. You can follow that link. Cloud Cowork is very similar. It's actually something that launched recently. It's a good point to mention that I've been using OpenClaw since the beginning of 2026, so almost 6 months. Before it got acquired by OpenAI, there are a lot of changes since the first version. A lot of changes, and I'm going to talk about some of the changes and what does it mean. Obviously, if you listen to this recording about a year from now, it's going to be very different. So my goal of this session is really to get you guys to start using it and start building stuff. And over time, things gonna change, and that's perfectly fine. So here's how you can get started. Again, it's very straightforward to actually set up the environment and get started. By doing that, you just set up that on your machine, and you just get a very basic interface, which I'm going to show you in a minute. If you need some time to set it up, let me know. But that's the link to get started. Okay. Once you get started, you will get something like this that you can open. This is basically OpenClaw interface. Okay. For your specific use cases, so your installation is going to look different. The name here, Kai, is my own agent, Kyle. I do have other agents. So once you set it up, it's going to look very different. I mean, the interface is going to look the same, but you might see some difference here in what is happening. Okay, let's talk about some basic stuff that we all need to talk about. So first of all, OpenClaw, as I said, is basically allowing you to connect tools, bots, and interfaces and so on together. The first time you set it up, you have to set up a model. You have to set up some model that you want to use. 6 months ago, it was the time that everyone started using OpenClaw, and everyone started using Claude. Claude is phenomenal. Sonnet and Opus are phenomenal models for orchestration and using inside OpenClaw. However, since OpenClaw got acquired by OpenAI, Claude put a lot of stop and issues on actually using that inside OpenClaw, which means that today, which is May 28th, 2026, you cannot use Claude Code inside OpenClaw in a way that you are using other models. However, it's not a big problem. Why? Because OpenAI acquired OpenClaw, you can actually use ChatGPT. So you have to have a ChatGPT subscription. And if you do have that, you can actually go and connect that to your OpenClaw instance. I personally do not use ChatGPT all the time. And the reason is it's a very expensive model for a lot of the day-to-day work. So you're going to see in a minute, a lot of the things that I'm doing for myself are not requiring a crazy model. It's require a very simple model that should be very cheap. I personally use Z.ai. So you can see here, this is the GLM model. It's a subscription based. So you can go and do like a quarterly subscription. It's again like maybe $20 for a quarter subscription. It's a very good model, a very cheap model that can do a lot of the things for you. And you don't have to go crazy with other models. The thing about OpenClaw is that you connect it to many different models. So you can see in the list, my list. I have Claude, Opus, and Sonnet. I have GPT 5.5, and I have GLM models, GLM 4.7, 5.1, and 5. I'm actually not using the latest GLM model. I'm using the 5 model. There's already 5.1 model, and so on. As we speak, announced today, there is also Opus 4.8, which I haven't used yet. But the idea is that you can connect any model. If OpenClaw pretty much integrate with a lot of different companies and provider. For those who want to have a lot of flexibility, there is a platform called OpenRouter. OpenRouter will allow you to basically connect to almost any model that exists today. It's a marketplace that you set up one-time integration, and then you pick and choose which model you want to use. OpenClaw support that. So the idea is that when you follow the link that I sent you, after you set up the instance, you can set up the environment and integrate with any model that you want. I want to pause for a second and see if you have any questions so far. Is it too fast? Is it too slow? So far, so good?
I have one question, Dror.
Yeah.
So all the AI models you're integrating through OpenRouter, which makes sense because you're not running them locally. But OpenClaw does run locally.
Yes.
So, and you need quite a lot of compute for OpenClaw. So are you running it on a Mac Mini or are you running it on a laptop? Like what are you running? What are you actually running OpenClaw on?
I'm running it on my personal Mac. So it's a M4
Okay.
MacBook Air. It's not even MacBook Pro. It's MacBook
Wow.
Air. Um, and it's running amazing. So
Hmm.
just because the models are on the cloud, I don't think we actually need too much. I mean, I also have another instance running on Raspberry Pi. For those who know Raspberry Pi, I do have Raspberry Pi 4 running with OpenClaw. It's slower for sure, but it's
Yeah.
working. So don't limit yourself to, you don't have to go and buy a Mac Mini, my point. You can start on your own machine, whatever you have. A lot of people have some Raspberry Pi somewhere, or you can buy those very cheap. That's a good way to
Hmm.
start.
So for people that were kind of going nuts about Mac Mini, is that because they were trying to run OpenClaw with a local AI model running on the Mac Mini instead of connecting to a cloud model?
Yes, yes and no. Again, there was a lot of Mac Mini was very cheap at that time, not anymore. That's one reason. Um, I will tell you the big difference. It's running on my computer, which means that if I disconnect my computer and take it somewhere, it's not working. My
Hmm.
agents are completely done. I cannot access to my agents. Nothing is working. When you have a Mac Mini, it's working and running all the time. So that's the difference.
Mm.
It's a desktop versus a laptop. So that's why people like Mac Mini because it's very powerful, but it's also something that it can run 24/7.
Because it's effectively your own private server.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
great. Um, okay, now I want to talk about a little bit more how OpenClaw is actually working behind the scenes. Um, and I want to quickly put this so you all know, and it's very easy for you to follow. Um, okay, so here is the structure of OpenClaw. OpenClaw, when you install it for the first time, it has a lot of different files that kind of define how the system is actually working. The main file is called openclaw.json. It's a JSON file that I will show you in my own JSON, that including all the configurations about the agents, the file, the models, and so on. That is giving you, this is where you set up everything. When you go and set up everything on the CLI, that is basically going and making the changes in a JSON file. So that's the core system configuration. The other thing that I want to say is something called workspace. So the first time you set it up, you will get a workspace, and that workspace including a couple of different important files. So one file is called sol.md. MD stands for Markdown file. If you know, this is probably a very simple text file that kind of define the soul of the agent. So this is the personality that basically say this is who you are, this is how you need to behave, that's the tone, and so on. And we're going to talk about it in a minute. Agents.md is this is where you can actually define any startup rules, orchestrations, or instructions specifically for the agents. User.md, this is about me. So this is about each one of you. That's where you can actually explain and give more information to the agents about yourself. And the reason is because every time you start OpenClaw, it will basically load the user information and it will basically personalize specific things about how they communicate with you. And it's very important because when you communicate and build stuff, you want agents to know as much as you can about yourself. And there's a way to actually do that in a very interesting way, and I will talk about it in a minute. Memory.md. Okay, so you're gonna show that in a minute, but when you start working with the tool over time, there's a lot of stuff that you want the agent to remember. Things about you, things that you are doing. You can actually tell the agents, remember that. That's going to be a long-term memory file. So things that you do and things that you want the system to remember about you are stored in the memory markdown file. And the interesting one, it's called heartbeat. Heartbeat is actually something that you can define to run every 30 minutes, every 1 hour, every 2 hours, and so on. That is something that people sometimes get it very wrong at the beginning, but I want to clarify that. That's not the only way for you to set up automations. So heartbeat is something that you want the system to do every time, every 30 minutes or so. Okay? It's, ideally, that file should be very, very small and minimal. So you should do very, very few things that are running all the time. But in a nutshell, it can be something about either checking emails, for example, or it can be something about doing something every 30 minutes or so. This is not replacing anything that you want to automate later on that I'm going to show you, but it's just something that you want the system to ping and literally check for you every 30 minutes or so. And you can change the frequency if you want. And as I mentioned, you have a cron folder. That's where you actually define jobs, and you can define jobs on the fly from the chat that tell the agents, hey, go and do that every 30 minutes, go and check something for every 1 hour. And I know you, Daniel, talked about construction. I have something that actually check something for myself. I'm building a new house. I have an agent that actually helping me with the construction work. And I have a cron job that actually check my permit status every 1 hour. So I have that running in the background, and that's the way to set it up. So you can set up different jobs and so on. Tools is where you can actually set up functionality, is something that you integrate with different tools. I will show you how I integrate with different tools internally for my own use cases. Skills are specific things that you can build. This is a bit more advanced, but you can actually start building skills. And skills is basically a package of different files that include specific things that you want the agent to do all the time. For example, you can set up a skill that allow you to publish, to actually write and publish LinkedIn post. So basically the skill will be something about how do you want the post to be, what do you want the structure to be, or how do you want the format to be, and so on. It's very similar if you those are using Claude. It's very similar to Claude skills. It's just something that you set up in OpenClaw, and it's called the same thing. And memory, as I mentioned, there is a memory.md file that is a long-term memory index and facts, and it's actually based on a daily um, memory files. So every day when you start engaging with the agent, that will actually store and create that in a daily memory file. So what is happening behind the scenes is that the agents keep remember things about you, and it will take that information on a daily basis, compact and compress that into a long-term memory file. So that's the basic structure of how OpenClaw works. Any questions so far? All right,
Makes
let's
sense.
go a little more into, yeah.
No, I was gonna
Mhm.
say it makes sense
Okay,
theoretically.
cool. I want to show you, this is my OpenClaw JSON. As I mentioned, that's pretty much include all the details on how my system is running. So a couple of things to point out. This is the different authentication and integrations with different systems. So you can see Anthropic, you can see Google, Codex, OpenRouter, um, ZAI, and Claude CLI. So those are the things that actually you're not going to see the API keys, obviously, but those are the things that kind of define which systems are you actually using. And then you have a section that kind of including the models. So you can see the models information, including what is the model name, and some other parameters that you can. This is a bit more advanced. You never actually go and update the file. This is something that you actually set up from the CLI using the setup command. But this is how it's actually looking behind the scenes. This is how the information is captured in the JSON file. You have agents. That's where you have the different agents. You can define different models, and then you can start seeing priority. So what you can do, you actually have to define a model. My default model, my primary model is GLM5, as I mentioned, and then I have a fallback. So basically, if the model is timing out, or if I want to start using some different models, I do have an option to switch to other modules as well.
Hey, Dror, I know that you originally set this up quite a while ago and you've been using it.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if you've tried to reset it up since. I'm curious, like how much of this is automatically done, how much of it is kind of like a walkthrough step by step using the current OpenClaw setup experience. Do you have any sense of that? Because there's a lot here, and it certainly makes sense, but there's a lot to go through, and I'm guessing you've built this up over time.
Yeah. So if you click on OpenClaw configure, um, that is an interface. As I said, you don't really go and update the JSON file. What you do is you actually go through this interface, and that will allow you to basically define model, tools, and all the different skills and plugins and so on in one place. So you don't have to have any skills or understanding of the JSON file to be understanding. But what you can do is actually you can go here and you can say, I want to basically set up a new model, let's say. Okay. That's the way to do that. You go and start and say more, and then look at the list of all the different providers that are kind of supported. Let's say that you want to set up now Minimax, which is something that I used in the past, which is great, but I don't use it anymore. So you can click on Minimax, and that will ask you, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to do API key, OAuth, or something like that? If you say this, for example, it will ask you, it's actually telling me it's disabled, but you can actually set it up everything in the UI. So you can go and say, I want to do, let's say, this one. Oops, that's a permission issue. But that's how you do that, Danny.
Okay.
You basically do that from the, I guess, UI, and that's the way to do that. It's very straightforward. It's very easy. Um, One thing to say, if you get something like that, which I'm getting now, it's basically saying the plugin is disabled. Um, when I started using OpenClaw about 6 months ago, it was very, very, if you remember, there was a lot of concerns about security and permission issues.
Yeah.
Since then, things changed dramatically. So I spent a lot of time in the last 4 months to start basically relaxing some of the limitations from the system perspective because it's becoming very, very limited to do a lot of basic things because of the feedback and the things that the team that maintained the project implemented, I would say for the last 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
Um, that's why you see a lot of things like that things are disabled, um, which is okay. It's actually a good thing, in my opinion, because it's not like it's running on your own machine. It pretty much can access all the files
By
and
the way,
all the information.
we still see your JSON file. I'm not sure if you're looking at a different screen.
Um, which file you see?
We were looking at your JSON file still. Oh, it sounded like maybe you
Okay.
were pointing at something in the
Oh,
open
okay.
interface.
Oh, sorry. You didn't see my other one? Okay. My bad. Is it now?
Now we see another, what is this? Like a model gateway file, OpenClaw
Okay,
config.
okay, okay. Okay, so you didn't see actually what I did before that. So Um, when you say OpenClaw configure, there is a way for you to basically set up the model from the UI, like what I'm doing now. So you can say,
Mm,
you click on model, and then you can say more, and there we have all the different providers that currently supported.
I
So you
see.
can actually go and set up anything that work Open Router, for example, and then you enter the Open Router API key. Once you
Ah,
do that, it will basically update the JSON file for you. You
gotcha.
don't have to do anything. So it's very simple. Um, Back to what I said about the issues, like I said, for example, the plugin is disabled. When I try to basically set up Minimax, for example, I got this
Hmm.
error. And what I said is that before that, it was very easy to set up. There was less restrictions on what you can do. Since the company got acquired by OpenAI and all the feedback from the industry about permission and security and so on, they started putting a lot of limitations on what you can do. So
Mm,
what you have to do a lot of the time is to actually start opening up and relaxing some of the limitations.
mm,
When I get a message like that, personally, I actually ask my own agent to give me instructions how to actually fix this.
nice.
All right. But back to your question, how much is it? It is very easy to set it up. You pretty much you can set up the API key. I'm just putting some fake one, and that's it.
Mm,
So the model is there. You can actually start playing with that. That's how you can do that. I do want to say it's not gonna work out because I put some simple one, but you can actually go and update anything in addition to models. So you can go and update your tools, your channels, which we haven't talked yet, plugins, skills that I mentioned before that, and so on. That is pretty much the easiest and the best way to update your JSON configuration. All right. Since we have this actually screen right now, I do want to talk a little bit more about channels. So channels is basically the way for you to um, communicate with OpenClaw. So what I showed you, the web browser before that, is the is the way that you actually can start communicating with the agents. However, a lot of people, including me, love to use some other tools. I personally use Telegram, which I will show you in a minute. You can connect it to WhatsApp. You can connect it to Google Chat. You can see it's a very long list of different tools that you can do. Um, Pick the tool that works for you. I personally like Telegram. You can do a lot of sophisticated things. You can set up groups and so on, which is going to be a little bit more advanced and for a different meeting. But you can pretty much do um, any tool that you want, and you can actually do more than one. So pick the best way for you that you want to basically interact and communicate with your OpenClaw instance and use that. You can also use Slack, by the way. Okay, so um, back to this. So that's the configuration file. As I said, most likely you will never have to go and actually update the file directly. I just want to show you how it's actually looking behind the scenes. Another thing to show is that this is, for example, my Telegram information. So you can see some of the tokens and so on. Don't take a screenshot, but this is where you can actually set up everything out of the box. You have information about agents, so Felix, Steward, all my agents, that how they are actually working. If you remember before that, we talked about Workspace. Workspace is where all the files about agents, including the soul, the user information, identity, and so on. Each agent, when you create an agent, will get a different workspace. So that will be a dedicated folder that is including basically all the information about the agents. Okay, in my case, you can see I have a workspace for Scout, I have a workspace for Steward, I have a workspace for Ada. Each one of those edges, they have their own soul, they have their own identity, and all of that information about what they do and what they need to do. Um, Second.
Would you talk about the use cases that you're doing?
Yes, I will get to that in a minute. I'm just getting there. I do want to say, okay, so let's talk about something that I want to say. There's a two type of agents in OpenClaw that you can do. You can set up sub-agent or you can set up an agent. And what's the difference between those? When you talk and when you have when you first set it up, you can actually ask, and I will show you in a minute, how OpenClaw can basically spin up a sub-agent. Sub-agent is basically another agent that is doing some work behind the scenes on specific task and bring back the results to the main agent. It's not a permanent, it's not like an agent that is has a lot of information about specific project or information. It's basically designed to do specific tasks for you and come back with that to the same agent. So it's basically designed to do something else, and you can actually say, hey, spin up an agent using that model with specific model to do that task and come back to me. If you want to basically establish like one of my agents, Steward, for example, an agent that is very specific to do a specific thing for you. And in my example, Steward is the one that's helping with construction work and stuff like that. You want to set up a new agent. And that agent is getting, as I said, a dedicated folder. You can set up a specific model that that agent is using and so on. And that will be completely separate from any other agents. So they are not able to talk to each other, okay, to some degree. You can definitely do it in a much more advanced way, but they are very separate agents, and the idea is that it will allow you to separate the soul and the identity and all of that information about each one of the agents. So what I want to show you is that um, this is an agent that I set it up, and it's basically Steward. You can see this is the identity file. If you remember before that, what I mentioned is that identity basically is the file that allow you to basically define um, who is that person, who is that agent is. So you can see this is Steward, is a home remodeling AI agents, on the ground project manager for my house, site manager, helping with permits, understand what's going on, getting information, available all the time, some information about how the agent actually work, so proactive, documented, direct, and so on. What the agent is doing, you can see here. And this is the information about the folder. This is not something that you have to set up, by the way. When you set up a new agent, you basically tell the agents what is your identity. So you tell, hey, you are Steward, and your job is to do X, Y, Z. And that is automatically getting captured in a Markdown file. So this is not something that I typed by myself. It's something that I told the agent from the chat to basically, here is who you are, here is what you have to know about yourself, here are the way that we are going to work together, and that information is captured in a Markdown file. And you can see the last file. Um, it's basically say you are not Kai. So Kai is actually the main agent that I'm using most of the time. Kai is actually the orchestrator. And the idea it works that Kai pretty much handle a lot of the things day to day. But if Kai knows that I'm asking something specifically about construction and so on, Kai will know that it will basically delegate the task to a different agent. So that's something that is in a different file. And it's basically telling the system, hey, Stuart is an agent that's dealing with this stuff. Kai is the person that basically it's the agent that taking that information and orchestrating that across different agents. I do want to say, once you start actually using more agents, there's a great app for Mac that is called Codex Bar. Codex Bar is something that I'm using. It's basically allowing you to see your token usage across different subscriptions. So, for example, I'm not able to see it because it's something in my Mac bar. But if you have something like Code, Codex, Gemini, OpenClaw, and so on, it will basically allow you to understand how much you use your session so far, and what is your current usage, and you can actually get it in real time. So that is very, very useful if you have Mac and you have more than one that you want to understand usage. All right. Um, so,
Hey, Dor,
okay.
I
Yeah.
had one question for you. You mentioned about Slack earlier, um, and I actually started with Slack as my main communication when I first started out, and the OpenClaw Slack connector is built with WebSocket, and I ended up like going down a rabbit hole reading like GitHub issues and found out that I guess WebSocket can only handle like one connection. So when I had my
Okay.
sub-agents doing stuff like what you just described, I actually ended up not being able to use Slack because the sub-agent would like speak to, there'd be already be a connection where the main agent, like your Kai, was communicating with me. And when I was DMing with your Kai, my agent, it would block any sub-agent communicating with me. So that's why I ended up switching to Telegram, which you mentioned earlier about Telegram, because you can have
Yeah.
multiple connections to Telegram. And it's not like an issue with Slack, it's sort of like the direction that OpenClaw went integrating with Slack was like, they use WebSocket and that's a limitation that it has. So if you have like a lot of DMings happening, Slack might not be the right one for you.
That's a good point. I actually don't use Slack, but it's a great call out. I think it's important that people know. I didn't know about that limitation actually. I use Telegram for all the communications.
That's
So
what I
that's a
use
good
now
one.
too. It works, it's flawless. So Like for
Yeah,
me so far, it's flawless.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Okay, so this is Kai. As I mentioned, Kai is my main orchestrator agent. Um, I'm going to show you a little bit more how we can chat and start doing some work. A couple of things that I want to call out. So, first of all, there's something called session. So, session is basically when you basically communicate with the agent, it will basically initiate a new session. Everything in that session, every time you basically ask a question, it will take the entire session and send that to the model. Okay? Why it's important to know? Because many people are just using one session and they start sending a lot of information every time they make a call to the model, which is very, very expensive. Very expensive, even for the cheapest model. You don't need that. So when you basically start using OpenClaw more, um, when you start separating and isolating some of the communication with your agents, pay attention to the sessions because you don't want to take the entire chat from the last 4 weeks and sending that every time you interact with the agent. My recommendation is that once in a while start a new session. So there's an option in the UI here that is basically called new session. So it will open up a new window like this. So you can start a new session, and that's basically not sending a lot of information. It's basically taking some context about you and about agents and sending that, but it's nothing comparing to take about 4 weeks of Telegram chat and sending that again and again and again. Okay, so be very careful about the session. If you start using OpenClaw more, pay attention to the session itself because it can be very expensive over time. Of course, if you have something that you are keep communicating and using and building upon, the session itself is and the context is very important. So don't worry about that if that's what you want. But many times people don't pay attention and keep using the same session all the time. Okay, so this is Kai. I will tell you some of the use cases and some of the things that I'm doing. So first of all, as I mentioned, this is something that is running on my own machine. So it can pretty much access all my files and all the tools that I set it up. So I'm using, for example, a system called Paperless to store all my documents. I personally, every document that I'm getting, I'm storing that information. Many times I need something that is stored in some document that I need it now and I don't remember, and I can just you ask the agents to find that information for me. For example, I need now to know um, what is my Tesla plate number. What is nice about this chat, it will show you in a minute, is what it's actually trying to do. It's basically trying to search for the memory to find if there is any information about that. Okay? It will try to search for that information somewhere in the files. If not, it will start to search for different systems that are integrated in my system. And it will say something like, oh, I don't remember anything about it, which is perfectly fine. And it will say, search for Tesla plate in paperless. Because I know that I have that information. By the way, it's not, you can also you can also give instruction to the agent to say, hey, if you don't find that in the memory, go and search that in this tool. Go and find that in the place. So you can define those rules as you start building the system.
What's
So this is something.
paperless, Dror?
Paperless is a documentation. Um, it's this one.
Hmm.
It's an open source document management system. So
Okay.
I personally use it when I get an email and something that I want to remember or store. I just scan the file to this, and it will have all the information there. So it's basically taking a paper. It will basically create a metadata of all the text from the paper, and it will store that. So it's very easy to access that. So things like DMV renewal, house insurance renewal. So a bunch of stuff like that, any documentation that I need to remember, and then I can basically throw away the paper. So I don't have to keep it. So I basically store that in the system. Um, so as you can see, it keeps searching for that. And it's trying to find that information. There is some information there. It will at some point come back with some more questions and try to find that information. But you can see what is happening behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, the system basically start looking for that information in different systems and find that information for you. In reality, it should not take that long. There's a couple of different plugins that you can install. I personally do not use it right now, that you can actually store that information in the cache. So it's coming very quickly. But that's how you can actually invoke different instructions to the agents, and you can see what the agent is actually doing behind the scenes. I want to give you a couple of one more example. So um, I actually got this renewal document. Um, I got a renewal document for my house. Um, and my question is like this, like how the renewal compare to my last renewal. So I have no clue what really changed. So I need to basically understand from the agents. Tell me what actually changed. So since I got this, is the premium up, the coverage changed. Tell me exactly what is happening. So the good news is that I have a PDF file, and then I have another file that I can upload with the other renewal information, so I can compare. But for my use case, since I mentioned that I have that information already in the system, I can actually tell the system to go and find that information. And yes, the price is going up a little bit.
Dror, one of the things I'm curious about so far is like I'm trying to find the differences between OpenClaw and frankly like what Claude is today or Claude Code even. Do you have a
Um,
sense of that?
yeah. So as I said, Cloud Code is something that launched about 4 months ago. The idea was to basically compete with OpenClaw. Um, OpenClaw, in my opinion, is more flexible. So there's more flexibility to define certain things like identity, soul, and so on. It's also allowing me more flexibility to integrate with more tools, as far as I can see.
Hmm.
For example, paperless NGX, it's not very easy to integrate using OpenClaw from my own experience. Um, and I can use Telegram, for example, to communicate with my agents. I don't have to use I don't have to use Claude for that.
Okay.
So stuff like that. It's giving you more flexibility.
I could kind of answer that question with an example of how I'm using my OpenClaw. Um, so we're trying to go to Disney World with my family, and it's extremely difficult to get the room that my daughter wants. And there's like this thing that people sign up for. It's like a service. It's called like the mouse something, whatever. It's basically a service that checks the reservation list, which is public, and tells you when someone cancels their reservation. Apparently, there's a lot of cancellations, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so like last night, um, there was a cancellation at like 3:30 that the mouse 3:30 a.m. that the mouse replied and said, this is an someone canceled their reservation. There's an opening. And so what I did is today, literally today, I set up mine to go do that exact thing, but then actually make the reservation. Right. So instead of it being like a communication to us that there's a reservation, it's a closed loop. And I'm hoping that over the next few days, my OpenClaw will book the room that we want. That's a hope, right? It hasn't gone, it hasn't even had a day to run yet.
Yeah.
But that's an example of something you cannot do with Claude Code, right? It's always on. And when Dror opened up with the heartbeat thing, so every 30 minutes, every hour, whatever, if I set that thing to every 5 minutes, it wakes up every 5 minutes, it checks the Mickey Mouse site and tells me whether or not there's something there, and it books the room so that no one
Gotcha.
else can steal it.
Right. And James, that's the difference from co-work, right? With Claude. It's that you actually have to be there either having your computer awake
Yeah.
and waiting, or you actually or you there's some things it can do an auto prompt, but you either have to prompt it or you have to have your machine actually like open, awake, live, and ready. Otherwise, it'll just skip the task.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be an expensive co-work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what Dror is illustrating is like you kind of can pick the really cheap model and do like a really simple thing, and it will come back and give you the answer on an automated way without you having to
And
do.
in my opinion, that's the biggest advantage to me that you have to use obviously Claude models, which are all great, but you can have to pretty much use any other model that you want. And
Yeah.
again, Z.AI is very cheap and very good model overall. So it's still running, so it's taking some time, but in reality, what is happening behind the scenes is that basically OpenClaw take the PDF, it will basically read the PDF information, which including 15 different pages about the policy, and it will basically take all that information and it will find the information from the previous one, and it will basically find that information. So you can see that it's populating that information. It's coming up, okay? Um, yes, it's going up by $86. You're right, Daniel. So, but you can see all of that information is coming here. It's basically summarizing that for me. Okay. The thing is that I don't have to go and do it by myself. I don't have to look into the details. I can just tell the agent in 1 minute I can get that information. And by the way, I can do it from everywhere. I can do it while I'm driving. I can take a screenshot of that and upload that. It will do that for you very easily. Okay.
So Dror, maybe Dror, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it too, James. Like, is the biggest value that you're getting the ability to have OpenClaw just do things recur on a recurring basis in the background? That seems to be maybe where there's like a big differentiation. Is that right?
Um, not from my experience. Yes and no. I think yes, it can do a lot of things in the background. But for me is both. I mean, I'm using also Claude. I'm also using OpenClaw. To me, it's just more flexibility with the tools. As you see, right, for example, this one-time off task, it's very easy for me to do. If I have to do it in Claude, it will require a lot of configuration and things like that. To me, the integrations with different tools that I don't have to do that in Claude or I cannot do that in Claude is, in my opinion, the biggest differentiator.
Yeah, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of integrations at this point. Like
Okay.
I don't even know. I mean, that they're coming out. I can't even keep up. They're coming out like every day. Something new is integrated, and it's like, what can I do with this? And so like that community and like that part is like you can imagine it's like a actually the logo is kind of funny. It's like it's reaching out and touching all this stuff, right? Because it's like a crab touching everything.
Yeah.
It's got tentacles out there everywhere or whatever. So it's like um that's what I see is I think more what Dror said the second part is like there's just so much you can like so many things that are already pre-integrated that you don't have to think about.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I want to spend 5 more minutes showing another two examples. And then the last one I want to touch is about taste. And I think it's a very important topic that I want to show you how I'm doing taste in OpenClaw. But one thing that I want to start is, can you see this? So this is my Telegram chat with Steward. Steward is the AI agent that I mentioned to you that helping with construction work. I'm in the process of building a new house, as I mentioned. I'm getting a lot of different bids from different general contractors, and every bid is different, and there's always different terminology and things like that. I'm just sending that to Steward, and I said, hey, compare me and tell me what is happening. Point out things that are missing in some of the beats, things that I need to pay attention. Don't get shocked about the numbers. This is Bay Area numbers. But this is actually giving you, and to me, some visibility about things that I have to pay attention. You can see things that are not there in the estimate, like fire sprinklers, California again, things like that, project management, and so on. You can see the breakdown by different categories like electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and so on, and then some recommendations and so on. So all of that information, again, I'm using Steward for helping me. So basically, I'm taking that and I'm telling the agent, okay, generate an email that I can send to the GC and ask for clarification or asking for more questions and so on. I know some of the people doing that automatically with getting beats. So at the beginning, a couple of months ago, what I did was reaching out and doing some research on Windows. I found about 15 different companies that doing Windows in my area. And then I started basically sending them emails and getting bids and basically started comparing. What I got was about a table in a Google Sheet that comparing the different vendors and different numbers so I can see what is happening. This is something that I personally never did before, and if I have to do that manually, it will take me 2 hours or 3 hours to do. Now OpenClaw allow me to do that in about 5 minutes, okay, which is a huge productivity gain from my own experience. So this is Steward, and again, Steward is very well designed to focus on specific tasks to do. All the information here, including information about construction work and so on. And as I mentioned, the agents keep learning. By the way, I told Stu how to basically create an image. Okay? I told just get an image. That's what he created.
Hey,
Um,
Dror, I think one thing that I've been finding is whether it's with Anthropic's tools or OpenAI's tools, they're investing a lot of time in the harness, and that's what's helping to improve both performance and accuracy.
right.
I'm curious what your experience has been with OpenClaw in terms of accuracy. Like in the example that you just gave, there's a lot of numbers there. Like, are you
Yeah.
actually checking if they're right or wrong? How have you found it in terms of accuracy?
It's good as the input. So if you tell OpenClaw, take this and figure it out, most likely you're going to get something that is not good enough. So that's why the first part that I mentioned about identity, about soul, about tools, about instructions, the better you define that upfront, the better output you're gonna get. And the
Mm,
cool thing about OpenClaw, in my opinion, is that every time the system keep improving. So basically you say, hey, remember that for the next time. And then it will know next time that it will have to do something certain ways. So the system keep improving over time. So it's a good point, and I want to say, if you start with the OpenClaw, don't get frustrated when you start at the beginning getting some very generic answers or things that are not accurate or not good enough, which is okay because the system has no clue about you and doesn't know anything about your setup, about what you want, what you need, and so on. It will take time. I have about 6 months of history about myself and about what I'm doing.
mm.
So I'm still getting these sometimes issues where the output is not good enough. And it's okay. But you have to basically make the system better. It's up to you. There's no way that the system know you from day one.
Fair. I was thinking more about
Um,
data accuracy, but that makes sense.
yeah. Oh, data accuracy, it's good. It's good actually. In my opinion, it's very good. Okay. I know I know it's 1 o'clock, but Danny, I want to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, which is called taste.
Go for it.
So, um, one of the things that, in my opinion, is very powerful about OpenClaw is the system. As I mentioned, there's a file called identity and soul. All of those kind of define the agents, and the agents also have information about what they know about you. The better they know you, the better they can actually answer questions. Um, For example, the agents already know today that I'm in California, my time zone, when is the best time to communicate with me. So if I ask the agent to work on something during the night, the agent is not going to send any information to me before 7 a.m. in the morning, because that information is in the system to tell my time zone, my location, my preference, and so on. Okay? You obviously start a new system, a new setup, and the system has no information about you. So you have to start building that. You have to tell the system, here is what I like, here is my preference, here is my tone. When you basically start generating emails to vendors, for example, how do you want the tone to be? It doesn't want to sound very AI generic tone and so on, make it about me. So there's two ways that I found to be very powerful. One way is that what I'm doing today, I set up a new cron job. So you basically tell the agent, hey, set up a new cron job. It's basically a job that is running every day. And I'm getting a message every day in the morning that basically tell me something or ask me something about me. Okay? And that information can be, a question could be, for example, what color do you like? Okay? And then the system take that information and store that information in the Markdown file. The next day, the system read that file and ask you another different question. So over time, and I've been doing that for about a month or so, the system will basically start getting to know you much, much better in terms of what color do you like, what food do you like, where do you like to go, what are the things that you like. Why it's important? Because let's say you tell the agent, go and book a Disney World trip, like what James said. And the system doesn't have no clue about you unless you say, I actually like two bed, not one queen. Like I like two queen, not one king. I like fourth floor or seventh floor, or I don't know. I like all of that stuff. And the system have no clue unless you actually tell the system all of that information. So in order for you to build that, the process that I'm doing right now is to ask the agent to ask me that question every day. Every day the agent will come up with a new question that is going to be very unique. Today I got a question, what movie I like to watch? Okay. What place you visited that was something that you still remember until today? Those questions are very cool and interesting, but it's actually building a lot of information about you that is actually helping the system to do that. Another thing that I haven't tried, but I will put it here so everyone knows. It's called a taste interviewer. Okay, a taste interviewer, and I'm putting that in the chat. It's something that is basically the example is actually in Claude Code, but you can actually do that in OpenClaw as well. It's basically a list of about 100 questions that take you about 2 hours to complete. And you can use something like voice to chat. Whisperflow is a great app, but it will basically build a profile about you that is very, very powerful. Some people use that and say that it's actually changing the system dramatically. So before and after is huge difference, okay? But it's basically someone interviewing you to tell you and understand more about your taste, about how do you like to communicate. Do you like to answer emails about thank you? Or do you like to answer emails like, hey, John, thank you so much for sending that email, best. So that is the taste. And that is something that you can actually use one of those options to actually build that in your system. Why it's important, as I said, because at the end of the day, it's your own system. You want that to act on behalf of you. And it's very important that you build that taste into the system over time. I think we are about an hour, Danny. It's great to see people staying and sticking around. I'm all about questions. I know I covered a lot. My only ask, and I'm hoping, by the way, I got people excited and inspired to use OpenClaw, but my only ask is just start using that. Just pick one thing that you're doing today that you can automate. Take the Disneyland trip, take something that you want to do. I haven't shown you, but I'm trying to find a ticket to Bangkok in Christmas. I just set up a tool that basically integrated with Google Flights, and my agent every hour checking flights and finding the best price. So pick a use case, something that you have today, and just start using that and see how it works.
Dror, like I'd love to maybe dig deep on, let's say that example that you were just talking about, right? Your flight to Bangkok. You you told Kai, hey, I want to find flights to Bangkok for, me and Cheer and the kids. We want to go in some general time frame, look every day. And then are you giving it permission to go book the flights and it has all the credentials, or are you just saying like, let me know when you find something and then I'll go take a look at it?
Yeah. So here is what I'm getting. Every time there is a change. So you can see cache getaway alert. It's basically telling me San Francisco, where I live, to Bangkok, connections and white matters. I basically said, tell the agents, hey, find me flights to Bangkok. I'm okay to take one connection.
Yeah,
Um, I need it to be below $900. If you see anything, let me know. And the agents basically summarize it in that way to me, and it's telling me, here is what I found. Here is the connection, white matters, which is important because you want to know why it's actually important for me to know about that, and see that information. And then it's also remembered the last time. So it told me already that if I stop in NRT, this is still the best price. So that's something that is keep running. Um, and I basically just, the way I started it, I basically said, I want to fly to Bangkok. I'm okay to stop in one place, no more than 1 day connection, obviously. I want the price to be that price. The date is somewhere between December 16 and December 22nd. Find me the best option. And again, if I want to improve that or I want to change that, I can just tell Kai, hey, take this job, and I'm okay to actually stop in Vietnam, for example.
sure.
Just change the rules. And it will basically change that. So it's very straightforward to do that. And that's how it works. That's what I'm getting.
And then James, in your example, to try and book the room at Disney, have you given OpenClaw permission to like take action and book the room?
Yeah, that's how uh I'm trying to beat the mouse scanner thing because that's only just telling you what it is. So we have to give it like a card and tell it to book. Um, but
Okay.
that's the thing is at some point if you want something badly enough, you'll you might give it access to something, and you just try to box it in.
Yeah.
Prepaid card, you know, so
Okay.
account with not that much money in it, exactly how much money it needs.
So did you set up all those bounds for it to actually go book
Yes.
the thing for you?
Yeah, because this is now the most important thing in our family right now. So I had to find a way. I wanted the
Interesting.
mouse thing to work, but like the 3:30 thing, I called it this morning whenever I woke up and I got a 3:30 message in the morning saying,
Oh,
hey, and then I'm waking up 3 hours later, like a little 6:30 a.m. And I missed it by 3 hours. Someone else already got it.
wow. I'm sure it was maybe someone on the West Coast or something like that. That saw
Someone
it.
on the West Coast or someone else with an OpenClaw whose
Yeah,
heartbeat
maybe.
happened before mine.
So can you book it on the website or
Yeah.
okay. And do you know, will OpenClaw run on your local browser or is it running in a virtual machine?
Yeah, it's using Playwright. So it runs on a local browser. It pops the browser up. It does the actual search itself and it gets to the website. So you can see how many times when you wake up in the morning, 100 tabs, you know.
Wow. If that's using Chrome, that will definitely crash my laptop.
Have you done anything
Yeah.
like that, Dror, where it opens Chrome?
Yeah, it's basically, I have, for example, searching the San Jose site website. It's basically open up the browser and extracting the details and all the information out of the box. Also logging to some websites. One thing about information, for example, I don't know about you, James, but I'm using 1Password for storing the information, and I actually have a separate account just for OpenClaw. So OpenClaw can basically store the information in 1Password and also get the password information from 1Password. So I separate everything together. If I want to give credit card information, I could just copy the item from one place to another to give access if I want to. that will make sure that things are completely separate. But there is an
Ah,
integration with 1Password because it's all CLI based that allow the agents to basically log in with my information as long as I can give access.
and are you setting up unique logins for the OpenClaw agents, or you're just giving them your regular username and password?
No, no,
Yeah,
please don't do that.
no, not that. But I'm saying that let's say I need to log into I don't know, Disneyland website. I can give the 1Password item, which is including my username and password, or set up another one if I want, and store that in 1Password. So I don't have to store that in a Markdown file. It's more secure.
So, sorry, I'm gonna ask the question again, but in a different way. All right, let's say you want to go do James's thing, and you have to log into the Disney website somehow, right? You're storing your credentials in 1Password. Your OpenClaw agent gets what, like a token from 1Password that it's then able to enter into the Disney
Yeah.
website because you have 1Password running in your browser, and then is it that how it works? Is it like the agent gets the token, it gives the token to the browser plugin then populates the fields?
Yeah, so the way that works is 1Password has something called service account. So service account is something that is token based. So the first time you set it up, you create a service account for OpenClaw. And then you get a token. So you tell OpenClaw, here is the service account token. And that's how the OpenClaw instance communicate with 1Password. Okay? Then from that, anytime that you need to log into any website or credit card information and so on, you just store that in 1Password, and then OpenClaw can access that.
Okay. So all OpenClaw needs is the token from 1Password, effectively.
Yeah. And it's actually stored in your computer. So it doesn't have to do anything. Yeah. Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of more questions.
Have you, Dror, have you thought of anything where OpenClaw would buy something for you yet? I guess the ticket. So it has your account on, like, I did this because this is all I came up with this myself, like creating an account with a bank online and giving it access to that. It doesn't feel right. It feels like there should be like some budget, right? That it has, and it has access to some budget, and then that has an abstraction over the bank account, and then the budget, it can't run the budget up. But I didn't find anyone talking about this online. I'm curious, like for the Bangkok ticket or even another use case, have you thought of how you would protect yourself properly while giving
I
it the same?
personally very careful about letting OpenClaw buy for me. I personally don't feel comfortable about anything about money and stuff like that. So I like to get informed, and then I can just click on a link and go and buy stuff. For example, flights, I can just buy it by myself. Um, so I'm not there like automating that part, but it's possible. It's doable. It's definitely possible. Yeah.
Probably the more days this goes on, the more likely I'm going to build that budget thing myself.
So James, do you remember like a year and a half ago, I was working on like a payments for AI agents startup idea, and then we
Yeah.
stopped because it was like way too early. But that was part of what you're talking about is what we were planning on building. So with you can do it with like virtual cards and a bunch of different card controls type of stuff, right? That was one of the things we were thinking of building was that.
I have an X1 card and I created a virtual card. That's how I did it.
Okay.
And so I gave it that card. And so it can't do anything more than whatever I have, like that
What's an X1 card?
X1 card. It was like what um the Apple card was supposed to be. It's like you can create multiple virtual cards from X1. I think PayPal bought them recently.
Oh,
But it's
interesting.
basically one card, and you can just create a number of virtual cards within that only can only buy from one specific place, can only do one specific thing. That's how we achieved it. I mean, if I didn't have that card, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't like the way where I have to manage it from there. I'd rather it be some other more secure thing.
Gotcha.
So your idea of the agents payments thing, I think, is alive and real today.
I was just a year and a half too early.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people that are like Dror though. Like, I don't want this AI buying stuff for me.
I'm like Dror. I'm just so like I just want this gone.
You're so desperate. They're
Yes.
so desperate to get a Mickey Mouse hotel room.
It really is. It's a big deal.
Awesome. Chuck, Matt, any questions either of you guys have for Dror?
No, I appreciate you sharing how you're using it. It's interesting to see as I kind of I'm getting deeper and deeper in Claude Cowork every day as a kind of show of one while I'm building a product and service. So it's good to see where other places you can build are that maybe solve some roadblocks.
Yeah, the practical stuff's been helpful. That's been the biggest thing for me is kind of finding, hey, what's the project I need to throw at it that isn't going to break me? The Disney thing would have been useful about 20 years ago, um, and so on. So yeah, this was helpful.
Cool. Well, I hope everyone got inspired for an initial use case. I think that's just what you need is like one use case to get started, and then everything snowballs from there.
Yeah. And don't forget, with great power comes great responsibility. So.
All right,
Don't,
Dror.
don't, don't don't forget to check your agent's output and make sure that you
Yeah,
don't get an Disneyland in a different country.
yeah. Disneyland's gonna buy you your agent James is gonna buy you the presidential suite at the hotel. Awesome. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of Thursday. Dror, thank you so much for going
Thank
through
you.
this. We'll
My
share the
pleasure.
recording for folks so that that it's easy for folks to go and set this stuff up. But this was a lot of fun. It's nice to sort of see some really interesting practical applications of this, and I think the integrations and the flexibility is clearly like something that's really interesting. I think just like the Telegram integration and being able to talk to it all the time is helpful too. Um, I wonder I'm curious how much you're spending each week now.
Um, a couple of hours, I would say. At the
No,
beginning, it
sorry.
was.
I meant how much money are you spending on tokens at this point?
Oh, I mean, I have the typical $20 membership, OpenClaw, not OpenClaw, sorry, OpenAI and Claude, and then Z.ai, I think it's like about 30 or $40 or something like that. Not a lot.
Not
Yeah.
bad at all.
Well, my point is that you can do a lot with some very basic membership.
Sounds
So
like it.
as long as you don't send the entire chat of the last 4 months as a
Yeah.
context to the token, that's why it's getting expensive. So that's what I mentioned. I learned that the hard way when I used Open Router, and I basically found like I spent about $20 a day. Um, so don't make that mistake. But again, just pick one service, start small, and build on top of that.
Good closing thought. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye
Thanks.
bye.